Hey, sports fans! Coach Nick here, and welcome to a a green room live show that I'm trying to do something here with the simulcasting on to both. It looks like the green room people can hear me through maybe my phone or maybe from my computer. I hope I can hear you guys. Somebody give me a little heads up in a discussion on the green room. Let me know you can hear me okay. But I do see the green light blinking, so it looks like it's hearing my audio. It looks like you guys out on YouTube can hear me as well. Let's hear. Kadar, can you hear me? I'm sorry, say it again. Okay, well, they can hear me great, but I'm not so sure I can hear everybody. I'm supposed to be piping the audio from this onto the YouTube side because I want you guys to be able to hear as well what the callers in are saying. If that's a problem, I guess I'll hold it up by my microphone for my computer. But either way, let's see if we can make this work. So, Eli, are you there? Cool. Well, I'm going to ask while you're talking if anybody can hear you via the computer or by my phone. Either way, if they can hear you okay. So what's happening? Did you see the news just now we got about Giannis's knee?
Yeah, there's no structural damage. Yeah, that's. I don't know what that means for his timetable, but I'm glad that I'm just happy for him as a person, because like if there was like serious structural damage, he probably wouldn't. There'd be a situation where he might not be able to play a large majority of next year.
Yeah.
Not even just as a Giannis supporter and somebody who's super super big on Giannis. While obviously you want to win, at the end of the day, when a player gets hurt, it's really not about winning per se. It's about making sure that player is just okay for.
Okay, absolutely. I'm doing a quick check over here to see if people can hear you on the on YouTube. Can anybody hear what he's saying? Let me know in the comments while we're talking. But I guess I can move the mic a little bit closer. But it's pretty sensitive. It's too quiet. Oh man, I set it up. I practiced this where my phone was plugged into the thing, but as soon as you go live and start talking, it overrides the setting, which sucks. Although maybe no. Oh, I have an idea. I'm going to turn my phone up louder. I haven't done that. I could do that. Hang on for 1 second. Where is the volume? Audio settings. Not configurable audio settings found. That's interesting. What if I did this? Nope. Okay. Well, let me figure this out real quick. I know there's a place. Oh, here. There's a volume property. Let me try that. I'm going to turn it way up. So say something to somebody who's in there. Eli or Carlo. Say something.
Hello.
Okay. I see the levels might have been gone up. Does that any better for the guys on the YouTube side? Anyway, it's not quiet, people are saying. Anyway, you sound perfect. Great. I'm not going to worry about it. I think we're good. Oh, I got to hit this button, though, to make sure that it updates. Okay. So anyway, really quickly, if you haven't seen the Woj bomb that dropped literally 2 minutes ago or 5 minutes ago, no structural damage to the knee, which is shocking to me. I can't believe how gruesome that looked, that he ends up being, he didn't tear anything. Clearly, he stretched ligaments, and that's going to be painful. But they might even say if you can deal with the pain, you might not be, injured any further. So he might even play again. I'm shocked.
If he plays in the series or at all in the playoffs.
Say it again.
You said you'd be shocked if he plays in the series or at all in the playoffs.
Well, I mean, okay. My first instinct would have been at all. Period. He's done for the playoffs. With no structural damage back, then, maybe the series. But the series is now, there's only 3 games left, and that's going to happen within 6 days. I would think he'd be out for a week, don't you think?
Yeah, isn't a hyperextension usually 2 to 3 weeks?
Yeah, it's hard to know. Everybody's different, but still, it seems crazy to me that. And also, remember, this is a long-term thing where they got to keep him. They want him healthy to play for his whole career. But sometimes the doctors will say, yeah, you can't really do much more damage to it. It was a freak accident where he landed on the guy's leg or on the foot, and then he kind of got all. That won't happen again necessarily. But I would be so nervous about this that I don't know how I would feel about wanting to get back in the game.
If I'm not mistaken, there are 3 to 4 days between eventual Game 7 and Game 1 of the finals.
Yeah, it's weird. As far all I could tell about what the schedule is for the finals is that it starts on the 8th. And I can't tell when Game 2 is or Game 3 is, but if it's July 8th, yeah, you're right. There's listen, well, it depends on what the Bucks do, but yeah, it would end up being they'll have several days in theory. They'll have another week between today and then. But man, I mean,
I do think that maybe in 10 days he will be able to play, not like a bit better than Harden in the Bucks series.
okay, yeah. So yeah.
Theoretically, the finals is like within a slightly optimistic timetable, right? Like if Trey Young's not to play right, which also I wouldn't want because I want good basketball, but just theoretically, Trey Young doesn't play the next 2 games. The Bucks fucking somehow, by God's goodwill, get their act together and beat them the next 2 games. What's the layoff there, and like how does that line up with the timetable?
Okay. Well, I mean, if the Bucks win the next 2 games and end the series, if we get the schedule out real quick, either way, let me see here. Sorry, NBA schedule. Let me know if you can still hear. Do I have to hold the phone by the mic because my arm's going to fall off? Let's see here. The next game is July 1st. The game 6, which could be a clincher, is July 3rd. And then, yeah, you're talking about 5 days until the game 1 of the NBA Finals. I just think it's too tight. I don't see how he comes back before the end of the series. Even if it was game 7.
So, if you're Coach Bud, what adjustments do you make without Giannis, in your opinion?
Okay, good question. I'm in the middle of doing a video. I'm going to do kind of a short, John Boy media style video on this one just because I have to get it out. But, part of the problem was like freak turnovers. They had 11 turnovers up until the point when Giannis went down. Once Giannis goes down, by the way, it's like all bets are off. You take a guy that good out of the lineup, they're going to be freaked out. I wasn't surprised that it turned into a 20-point game. The problem, though, was the Hawks had control of the game for much of up until that point. And so Middleton had 4 turnovers. 3 of them, which you're going to see all in a row, were all in the same pass, trying to lob it into a mismatch down low and just either threw it way long, way short, or way long again. So in theory, like Bud's going to say, well, we got to cut down on that stuff, which probably would happen by just, Middleton isn't going to do that again, I don't think. I don't think you're going to see an NBA player throw away 3 passes the same way in the same game. It was crazy. So that stuff should get cleaned up anyway. And if Giannis is not in, though, what are you going to do? You have to start. Obviously, Middleton is prepared for this. That's the beauty of their way they structure their offense. Middleton's is as important offensively as Giannis is, I would argue. And so he's already the man, right? He's already done that. Also, Middleton was 3 for 11 up until that point. So, again, you have to imagine he's not going to do that again. Now, on the flip side, the Hawks have been shooting, I think, 25% from three-point land the first 3 games. And by the time the third quarter ended, they were at 40%, and they'd hit 12 compared to, I think it was the Bucks had 7. So that was a huge advantage in the three-point land, which gives you a huge advantage in today's modern NBA anyway. So all those things are really key. But the thing with the Bucks is they're not going to adjust and stop giving up open threes. It's what they do. So they're going to have to sort of get back into getting, I think Drew Holiday's going to have to get a lot more aggressive offensively to balance what Middleton already does in the pick and roll. So you'll see that. You'll probably see some, maybe even a Brook Lopez post-up or 2 to try and get some points. They obviously tried it, and they got some mismatches. They just couldn't get it to him down low. That said, Brook Lopez they scored most of the points when Brook Lopez was on the floor, involved him in some way. And I'm not going to really completely lay it out and blame him and point the finger at him. But the fact is that he was involved in these plays with pick and rolls or rotational stuff, and they were scoring. So the only way that Bud can adjust that is to adjust his playing time.
Could they go like microphone, like Bobby Portis at the 5, and just like fuck it, like buy down Bobby Portis at the 5, and like just fuck it, like because like honestly, I don't know like stylistically on offense, like what advantage they gain with what advantages that other than that they can gain without Giannis. Like playing Clint off the floor is probably like the only advantage schematically that I think that they could take advantage of.
I agree. I like the small ball that we saw when it was Giannis playing the 5, which that's not small because he's 7 whatever. Listen, I have a problem with the way Lopez ends up playing. Either he's cursed or he's just not great at defense anymore in the way he moves. I mean, if you watch it, what's frustrating to me is because he was clearly taught to get really low and bent over. So now he's like doing this crazy like duck walk thing to get back and like handle the drop in the pick and roll and then stay with the roll man. And it's so unathletic and so ineffective that it's hard to watch. And even a guy like Bobby Portis just moves better than him. So that would be a good take for me for sure, is to get Bobby Portis more minutes anyway. He deserves them, and cut those off of Lopez and see what happens. It's an interesting thing because we don't know about Trey. I think he's coming back, right? And they probably just need to get him. It's probably a pain management thing for him with a bone bruise on his foot, that he can just say either give me a shot or I'll just take some Advil or whatever, and he'll just gut it out. That's another issue because that's the thing that the Bucks have to be really concerned with, because if Trey Young comes back and he's effective, then I don't think the Bucks can win the series.
Do you remember how did they went against Miami in the last year semifinals when Giannis went down?
When who went down? Oh, when
Giannis went down.
Oh yeah.
Game four. I think.
Yes, I remember that. And I guess your point is it didn't matter. The Bucks were able to win, no problem, right?
Yeah, well, they had the Middleton game. That's what the series is about. I mean, can Middleton go 2 for 3 in the next 3 games?
Maybe. Does Cam Reddish play as well as he has last night? It was kind of good to see. And by the way, it's another thing I should probably put in the video is to warn the Bucks fans is that a guy like Cam, who's coming back after a long layoff and clearly looked out of rhythm, this might have been a game that kind of got him back into rhythm and he can be really effective. Because I think going into the season, I thought Cam Reddish was going to be a breakout star. I had a video all prepared, ready to do on him, and guess what happened? DeAndre Hunter became that guy. And I was like, I thought this was going to be Reddish's role, and then Hunter really kind of took it over. But whatever I had seen from Cam Reddish and the ability is there, and we saw it last night. So, they get they get 12 points from him, and the defense he played, that's going to make him really, really tough. By the way, imagine when DeAndre Hunter comes back and they have Cam Reddish, and let's say John Collins, they bring him back, which they absolutely should. Then you got Trey Young, and you have, I don't know if Gallinari comes back in that scenario, but that's a really good team that it's going to be hard to beat, especially with all the experience they're getting right now. Adam, I see you're asking, how do you join the Green Room? So you download Green Room. Set up the app, but I don't show up. Look under B-Ball Breakdown. I'm a check-marked guy on Spotify or on whatever, on Green Room. So it shouldn't be too hard. If anyone else in the comments on YouTube or whatever wants to sort of give them any more information about signing up, it just was automatic for me. And anybody else on YouTube who wants to come on the show, come on in. I'll hold my phone up to the mic so they can hear you. And then one of these days, I'm going to figure out how to make this work. I'm thinking that maybe what I'll do is I'll sign in as another person on my iPad and then send that signal through my computer so you guys can hear the perfect sound. The only problem is I'm worried it won't be synced. Like if you're looking at my video here, it'll be behind. But we could try it next time. But anyway, yeah, come on over. I want to hear you guys, like we do on our Hot Mic app. Let's do it on the Green Room and try that too, because but there's no join option. So Adam, go to at the home. You should just see like current shows that are on right now, and you should see Giannis hurt, did the NBA walk under a ladder? Because by the way, that's my question. Is there like did they build the playoffs on a burial ground or something? Like why? What has happened here? I mean, I know that the season started early. It wasn't a lot of a time in between. Whatchamacallit. There wasn't a lot of time between the last season and this season, but still, I'm sorry, I'm also seeing Adam. All right, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to copy the link to, I hope, this show on my phone. Then I'm going to do the really cool Mojo where I believe I can paste that onto my computer and it'll know. Did that work? There it is. Okay, so there is the link to the actual show if you want to join on the YouTube side. So, all right, who else wants to chime in? Carlo?
I honestly think that they are playing way too many games. That the schedule is too compressed. Like the Clippers are playing 16 games in 28 days.
Yes.
That's too much.
Very much. So that was the other problem was it's not even a factor of this short season in theory, right? Well, actually, maybe it is. Maybe they were trying to like really jam the postseason in so they could start next season on time. But you're right. Normally,
it's about the Olympics. They don't want to go under the Olympics schedule.
Yeah, and by the way, imagine that. Who's going to want to freaking play the Olympics now out of this? I can get like Dame Lillard, who was knocked out. He had a little extra time, but nobody playing now is going to play the Olympics, I don't think. And if they do, I would be.
Team's already been what's it called?
It's decided, right? So is anybody in the Final Four on the team? I can't remember now.
I don't think that there's anybody in the Final Four on the team. But
Okay.
Like, there's not a lot of James Harden was supposed to play. I think he opted out.
Yeah.
Kevin Durant's on the team, interesting enough, but like, there's not. It's. I don't want to say it's like one of the worst teams we've assembled because we've assembled like some pretty bad teams. What year was that? 2004 wasn't good.
No.
Middleton and Drew.
It's the worst that I could think of since like I've been watching. So.
Right.
Yeah.
And by the way, anybody over on the Green Room app right now, if you want to come in and join, just hit that request button. I'll let you come in and we'll chop it up. I like to hear from everybody all at the same time in a cacophonous, fun discussion. Here's an interesting question I just spied on the YouTube comments. Matt M wants to know my thoughts on Okongwu's defensive ability. Well, for 2 games in a row, we've seen some really good stuff from him. And so I'm wondering if this is not necessarily an anomaly. And by the way, he looked good on offense, too. Now, I had seen him as a freshman playing alongside Lonzo Ball over at Chino Hills in L.A., and it's good to see him getting some run. I would have thought he'd have even more skills by now. Like, he'd have, like, a jumper, and he'd handle the ball more, because it was so open back then, and all these guys were playing with every kind of skill. So that's strange. And, Adam, I don't know why you can't join. It just doesn't – you don't see the show, or you tried it? Anyway, anybody else having problems getting in the show on the YouTube side coming over? Either way, I would like to hear from you and make this work at some point where I don't have to hold the darn phone up to the damn mic. But whatever. This is all, it's live TV, live internet streaming. Anyhow, let's see here. So let's get back to talking about the game, I suppose. So what other things can we look at here as far as what happened? I mean, did anybody else, like, I barely could watch it after Giannis went down. And again, it's so strange to me. I can't even, like, I haven't even processed that, like, there's no structural damage. It's like, I can't even believe it.
I don't think that the play necessarily, like, geeked me out or whatever, but I was just like disgusted at the fact that he got injured. Like, I was thinking about it and I told someone this would be like if Dirk got hurt in like 2001. I mean, not 2011, that is. Like, this felt like, and there were a couple injuries that like hurt me. Like the Kyrie injury, even though I was rooting for Giannis, like it just kind of hurt. Like, it just hurt like on the inside. Like, it hurt the integrity of the season, hurt like the integrity of the series, and like obviously it hurt Kyrie, but like ultimately, like, yeah, it felt like this is, as young as Giannis is, like, the way that he plays is like pretty physical. The way that he plays is like pretty dependent on his athleticism, and this felt like this was his season. Like, everything had lined up for him to be like, in position to win a finals, and like now it feels like there's a big chance he won't even be able to cash that in.
Oh, I agree. That's really what's well, here's the thing. I was the first guy to be on the Giannis train, right? Like, there was nobody, or I was one of the earliest guys to be like, look at his game. He's playing point guard to this thing, and so.
You and Bill Simmons
are. Oh, really? All right. Well, all right. I'll take it. And so the point being was that what was I saying? Sorry, I'm trying to look at 3 different things. At 19, at 20, this was amazing what he could do, and I was because I expected like development as well, right? You think at that age, look what he's doing. What's he going to do now? The problem is he's kind of stagnated, I think, skill-wise, and it's really, really good. It's up to 28 points a game kind of skill, but there's enough of a deficit there that frustrates me at this point where it's gumming up the works. We're seeing 4 guys crash on a pick and roll when he's not involved because they're just ignoring him when he's spotting up on the weak side. That makes it hard on everybody. It doesn't make it easier. You know, he had some bad turnovers too last night, and like that's the other thing is, you know, he hasn't developed that either, and then certainly the jump shot and the inability to make it consistently at all outside of about 8 or 9 feet. So, I'm just torn by the whole thing because I love him. I'm sure he's probably the best teammate of all time. He works really hard. He's hilarious. He's like just a great guy to be around, I'm sure. But the game itself is frustrating to me, and I do sort of gravitate away from those kind of players. Simmons is included as well, who, you know, can't seem to master, you know, shooting outside of 10 feet. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right, I'm trying to invite Adam over here from. Let's see here. If I do type in Thomas Dwyer, what happens? Sorry. Yeah, do you have something to say? No. Well, Adam, I'm typing in your name in there, and it says I don't have any followers that match that name. That aren't already in this room. Are you sure you're not in the room? Are you following me, Adam? Because the Thomas Dwyer says it says you're not. I can't. I do a search. I don't see you. So maybe there was some glitch in when you signed up. But anyway, anybody else want to come in? Yes, we have somebody else. James. Let's bring James in.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Oh, awesome. Big fan. I've been listening since LeBron was on the Heat.
Awesome. Thank you.
But, yeah. I just had a question. I'm a big Lakers fan. And, you know, we see trade rumors about Kuzma all the time. Is he worth anything? Because I see him night in, night out. And I don't really see anything he's good at or even kind of above average at either.
That's a really interesting question. I mean, he's got value, and there is past evidence of what we saw him do in other seasons that, you know, it doesn't just disappear in theory. You know, it's difficult to play alongside LeBron as a role player, right? Because there's not always the kind of rhythm and shots that you'd be getting in a consistent manner when you play alongside him. So we've seen that in the past, you know, and with Miami, and certain guys would be really good, and then they'd be really, really bad, and there was like a lot of variability there. So I would think that there would be some teams that would definitely like him for sure, and there'd be some value. Is he a free agent?
No, there's just a lot of trade rumors around him. But my thing is LeBron and Anthony Davis missed most of the season, and his numbers, I know you can't base everything off numbers, but his numbers are almost exactly the same as last year's.
Yeah.
And they were playing the whole season too.
So, okay. So your point would probably be, well, look, he had a lot more opportunities during that stretch when they were both out, and he didn't show anything.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. It's weird because he did show things again, like that same thing when you think, okay, he's a rookie. Look what he's doing as a rookie. You don't just lose those skills, but like sometimes, yeah, if it's mental or whatever, or just the makeup of the team, you're right. Now, here's the thing about that I liked about his development was that he became a better passer and like facilitator. He would make lobs and he would drive and dish sometimes to the point where he shouldn't be. He should finish some of those and maybe threw them away. But like that was a really eye-opening thing for me on his game was that, wow, he's looking to make plays for others as well. So I would probably be encouraged, and I have a feeling if there's coaches out there who say, yeah, we could definitely work with that. The question really isn't necessarily whether they feel that way. It's what would the value be? What would they get back for that, or what they need to give up for him? It's a good question. I don't. Is he worth a first rounder? Like probably not, right? But I think that there's some value for him. I would think that the Lakers wouldn't want to lose him either because, he is a guy who is on his contract isn't bad, I don't think, right?
I think it's like $12 million.
Oh, it's perfect. That's a great contract for him. I mean, we can look it up real quick. Kuzma, I'm going to do this one-handed. I hate to have one hand, but hey, times being what they are. Let's see here. Kuzma is making, he made, let's see, 2021. He's making 3.5. Next year he goes to 13. But they just paid him $3.5 million. It's been the best value they've gotten because, again, even though he's not, his numbers are fine, but like he's a good player, sometimes a spot starter, and he's going to go 13, 13, 13 the next 3 years. That's a bargain for a guy who's going to play, what did he play, 25 minutes a game? Let's see, am I way off here? 28 minutes a game. You got a guy who's scoring 13 a game, he's playing 29 minutes a game, you're paying him 13, and he started 32 games. That's a really great value. So, by the way, that also means that there'll be teams that want him. So, but then again, I don't know. I don't know if the Lakers can upgrade better than him on a trade. I think they might be the short end of the stick if they try that.
Cool. All right, Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Hey, you got it. Thanks for coming on. Let's see here. We got some interesting comments over here on the green room. And again, I wish. Oh, here we go. Well, let's see. Trey wants to come in. What's happening? I hope I didn't butcher your name. Treyshawn? You there? All right. Hey.
Treyshawn, yeah.
Awesome. What's happening?
Is there an update on Trey Young's injury?
All I know was that deep bone bruise. He's questionable for Game 5. Let me quickly scan through Woj's stuff. Giannis. Where's Trey Young? I don't know. So I don't know it. Anybody else have any more information that they could throw out our way in the chat? Let's see here. Can we get a Trey up in this chat?
Because without Trey Young, the Bucks needed to take that game.
Oh, I believe me. But by the way, I'm not so sure they were going to take it anyway with Giannis not healthy.
I mean, they were on a run.
Let's see here. Well, let me look at that run. Oh, you know when I close that window. I'm going to go up to my popcornmachine.net, which everyone should go to and look at every day. At the time that Giannis went out, the Hawks, okay, the minute Giannis goes out, the Hawks go on a 15-0 run. Up until that point, though, it was like there was neck and neck. But the run that the Bucks did go on was 10-1 to start the second half. So, yeah, there was a run early, the first like minute and a half of the second half. Yeah, they were kind of closing it. And you're right, they had another run before that where they had been down big and they made a run. But like it kind of felt like Atlanta would go up and then the Milwaukee would kind of cut a little bit and they'd go up and they cut it. So it just felt to me more like the Hawks sort of had control of more of the game. But that said, as we've seen in the past, the Bucks come back. The Hawks can't handle that, especially without Trey. It wouldn't have been surprising if the non-Trey Hawks withered down the stretch and would lose a tough game on at home. So, but you can't ignore that, like up until the point that Giannis goes down, they were holding their own, which is really a strange thing to consider. It should have been a blowout, right, without Trey.
Yeah.
What else we got here? I'm trying to invite Thomas Dwyer again.
Giannis was dealing with a calf injury too, right?
Giannis, yeah. I mean, although I hadn't heard much about that in the last little bit of time, last few games, right?
Yeah, it seemed like I was saying this during the game, like this isn't revisionist history, but it seemed to kind of bother him. And maybe like I don't know. It seems like whenever you're like playing to like not get injured, you end up injuring yourself.
Oh, well, you know what I think it is? Because here's the thing. They were kind of losing. It was not, I want to say it's embarrassing, but they weren't playing well at all, right? I mean, the Bucks were kind of coming, it was back and forth, but I'm sure they felt some pressure on themselves thinking, oh my God, Trey Young is not here. They're up by 10, they're up by 11. We can't get control of this game. And that usually leads to sort of playing harder than you should be and getting into situations where you're stretching out even more than you would. And that's what makes me wonder about like the Giannis thing, where he was late on that rotation by like, half a step or something. Not a huge deal, but he was. And so as a result, he's like laying out, stretching. His legs are completely locked in the air. So when he lands, he has no way of kind of getting that leg bent before he lands, he puts all his weight on it. So I think that is part of it too, is sometimes the guys are playing too hard, which is sort of my issue as a coach. When I was growing up and learning how to play, I thought I needed to have absolute smoke coming out of my ears, right? Playing hard meant 200%. But that leads to injuries, and it leads to unbalance, and it leads to not being in a rhythm. It's hard to shoot the basketball well when you're like so tense and so ball of rage trying to just play as hard as you possibly can. The best players never do that, right? They work to get their 83% speed better than anybody else's speed, right? And that's the key. They can play at that speed and then be rhythmic and be loose and be and read the floor well. It's the guys who are taught like to overcome any kind of potential, skill deficits to just play harder. Well, no. Why don't you just train the skill to get better? That's the solution. And so that's what makes me worried about a lot of these guys. And by the way, Embiid could be that way too. Embiid crashes to the floor all the time. He had a dive for a loose ball that just about took Collins' knee out. I know you guys remember that one? And I was like, what are you doing? Like, you shouldn't be diving for that, but he was taught to do that. Like, that's the thing that really frustrates me.
You need to be able to balance being aggressive and playing hard and your own safety. You need it.
Yeah.
To be like a balance.
Oh yeah. I agree. I absolutely agree. And that balance is key. And that's where the skill development comes in. And by the way, if your coach is always talking about, trust in the players, well, the players need to trust that you want them to get better. That's how they get buy-in, right? That's how the coaches are always complaining. Oh, they're not buying in. It's the players' fault. Well, the players need to trust that the coach believes in them. Well, what better way than to, instead of having them dive for loose balls, wasting time on loose ball drills in the practice, working with them, individually on their skills. That goes a long way to developing that relationship and that trust from both ends to get that buy-in that you're looking for. And so that balance that you're talking about absolutely is key. And that's what go ahead.
I've had a lot of coaches that we just ran the entire practice. And
really?
It'd be run for 30 minutes.
How long ago was that?
This was middle school.
I mean, what year?
My entire middle school career, so from 17 to last year.
Okay, because I'm trying to figure out. 'Cause to me, it feels like in the last 5-6 years, the coaches have kind of, well, hopefully from my influence too, coaches have gone away from that. But you're saying in the last 5 or 6 years, you were doing that?
Yeah. I mean, he's one of the only coaches that I've had that have had us just run the entire damn near the entire time. It's
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, no, and that's why, that's part of the reason why I'm doing this, is I want to make sure coaches are educated enough. If you're running, there's nothing about running a suicide that helps you play basketball better. Running us in a straight line back and forth at a predetermined distance at a predetermined time does nothing for you basketball-wise. And if you want to get cardio, there's tons of ways to be able to get cardio and develop the skills at the same time, so you're not complaining about how you don't have any time to practice to get better because you're wasting it so much. So that's my take on that.
Yeah, we in middle school, we used to play this game called Survive, or is it called Survival? I don't remember. And it's there's 3 guys on the court, and you have to score on one end and the other to get off the court. Otherwise, you just stay on, and it's people interjecting. It's it was are we actually getting any better?
Yeah.
There was one point where if you were gassed during conditioning, you were cut. So it was
yeah.
It was are we actually getting any better doing this, or is this you just want us to run up and down the whole game?
Well, there's this notion that you're getting tougher and you're getting more aggressive. But to me, toughness to me is knowing that you're more skilled than the other team. That's what toughness is, and that's what makes you I never had to, when I coached high school and was the head coach, the reason why I rail against this is because I was the product of all these coaches and worse. None of you guys knew what it was like from 5th grade on getting this. Or maybe you could say you were, but it was worse, and it was prevalent across the entire country how they did this for all those years. And I coached that way when I started because that's all I knew. So that's sort of I had this sort of epiphany and realized there's a lot better ways to do it. And because I thought, they're making me really tough, and I was tough, but as a result, I had a deficit of skill. And instead of running all those suicides, if we had shot some more outside shots, for instance, we all would have been so much better. So anyway, my take on that is, the toughness comes from knowing that you're much more skilled than the other team. And, certainly if you're, the in shape part comes from, you're running these drills that are actually, developing everything and developing your decision-making, quicker, under duress, under, pressure, which you can create a lot of ways if you're just a little bit more creative than you were just by basically doing whatever you did when you were in middle school or high school. You have to picture this. Coaching from about 1950 to about 1995 or maybe 2005 didn't change. The basketball skills and drills and development was almost virtually the same for all those years. Now, the good players tended to get away from a lot of the fake fundamentals that we now know are ridiculous to teach. But meanwhile, the median player, the average player, would be stuck trying to do all these different things, and they would delay their development or obliterate it, and everyone would be scratching their head, I'm not working hard enough. When it was nonsense. They were just being taught the wrong stuff. So hopefully, as we go forward now, we're going to see a whole renaissance of of better play, and then everybody will benefit from that.
Yeah, I coach my younger brother's team. He's 11. It's a under 12 team, and I don't really make him run like that. I do most fundamental stuff, working on their form, working on finishing around the basket, working on like they'll get they'll get cardio doing from doing like these like full court layup drills. Like they don't need to run uselessly.
Right.
They need to run with purpose.
Also, like, pre-game layup lines are, like, the dumbest shit ever. I just think it's so fucking stupid. Just, like...
Well,
like,
you know...
By the time
That's
you're
just
in
to
high
get
school,
warmed up, man.
That's a good point.
It's like, that builds no rhythm. Like, I guess you can say, oh, you're seeing the ball go through the hoop, but just, like, fucking me running, laying it up, and then passing it to somebody else builds literally no rhythm. Like, it doesn't help me at all. Like...
Right. No, all great points. And by the way, I hope that if you are doing these kind of drills where you're learning about finishing at the basket, you know, there is a notion that you need to learn how to make the shots theoretically, like without defense, for instance. But the less you, see, Giannis is doubtful for Game 5. That's our breaking Shams information. But you need to be able to you have to mess with the nervous system, right? Right. Oh no, he's out for Game 5. So, or doubtful. But the more visual stimulation you give on someone who's trying to finish and make it a little bit more uncomfortable, the quicker the development is. So, you know, doing no defense drills where they're just laying the ball up doesn't. I think it slows the process down, even if they're young. So you have to like let them get, you know, a few of those shots. Let their bodies move through the motions and get the feeling down for it. But if you're not, you know, providing them some sort of visual, obstacles to deal with while they're trying to finish, then you're going to delay that process. I've seen it really accelerate it, and kids get much better, much quicker at finishing those shots. And because remember, all the great dribbling in the world and all those moves you can teach in the perimeter don't mean anything if they don't score at the bucket. And I remember way back in the day in the late 90s when I was coaching as an assistant, we would have this, we were running the triangle. It was working really well, but we'd get these great shots and we couldn't finish. But we didn't have the sense even then of how to develop players to finish better at the basket. I think we just sort of said, well, we got to stop doing that because they're never going to make that. Instead of let's figure out how to teach them how to make those shots over. Where's the floaters? Where are the up and unders? Where's step throughs? Like everything we can teach. And then also just, you know, even the basic drills we were doing as far as drop steps and jump stops to finish strong, didn't have live defense enough. And that's a huge key. So we got some more people coming on in. If you want to join in, we got a little while. We got another, 25 minutes or so. If you're over on the YouTube side, come on over to Green Room, download it. Hopefully you're not having as much trouble as Thomas was having earlier. And I guess you don't appear. I don't know where you are, Thomas, to invite you. But nonetheless, we have some new people on the line. What do you guys? What are we talking about?
Yeah. So my name's Alex. And Coach, I think you mentioned something about when you were coaching as an assistant in the triangle.
Yeah.
Where were you coaching? Were you coaching in the NBA or in like college basketball or something along the coaching spectrum? Where were you coaching?
So at that time, when I was talking about as an assistant, I was at high school. I was coaching in a high school, a big high school in the Valley in LA. And then the head coach allowed me to bring in the triangle offense because I had grown up in Chicago watching all the, all the Bulls games. So I kind of like knew the triangle as it was anyway. But by the way, the cool thing is out of that, Tex Winter was the assistant coach with the Lakers and he's the guy who invented the offense. So we were able to grab him and I spent hours with him going through it and discussing how to teach it the best way. So I was lucky to have him as a resource for a while there for all those years. And then I came back and was the head coach at that same high school in 2010 for 3 years, and that was where we continued to run the triangle, which I don't even know if I would even run it now. Certainly not like the strict triangle like we did back then, but anyway. So that was the levels where I was able to sort of install that stuff.
Would you run like the 5 out occasional triangle sprinkle offense in Tyronn Lewis right now? Yeah. I mean, they run pistol stuff, which, by the way, is right out of the triangle offense. Pistol is the secondary action off of pinch post, which is the second option in the triangle offense. And then we just find that action, which is a pin down into a handoff or a pin down into ball screen or a handoff into ball screen.
those actions happen a lot in the triangle. And then with what they're running with pistol now with the 21 offense, for the Clippers, they just found different areas to get into it right away. So absolutely, I would spread. I would want to keep the post area open more than not, and that's the thing was the triangle always had the post option, the post position filled, and it did clog a little bit on the strong side. So I would definitely clear that out more. The only challenge though is so pinch post. If you can picture that as you throw the ball to the from the top to the elbow, and you follow your pass looking for a handoff back. That's a devastating option, and it's hard to get that organically. So that's my big challenge right now to kind of figure out a 5-out notion where you can then still get pinch post action without having to like call it every time. That seems to be frustrating when you have to do that. I like it organic.
That's a really good set against a 3-2 defense, right? I've seen that a lot. Like teams go to like a pinch post, like if you're like running the 3-2 zone, and like they always get like a 2-on-3 advantage on the side that's loaded.
Yeah.
Like, or they might get like a 3-1.5 because one defender is like focused on the
yeah.
ball handler
Well,
down here.
And the adjustment in modern day is now that catch is not being made at the elbow. You can make it at the 3-point line. So suddenly, if you hand it back to the guy and the guy goes under, it's basically like a pick and roll. It's a shot. It used to be a 15-footer, which we would love, in high school. But now, coming full speed, getting a little handoff and going, right left if you're going to your left on a righty to shoot a 20-footer is not a hard shot. The guys can do that. So it's also if you go on the catch. Then you can probably drag the guy who's handing it off to man with you, and then now you got a little pocket pass, you got a pop, you got a lot of things going. It's at high speed versus like a pick and roll where it's a little bit slower. So that's why I love the pinch post action. I love handoffs because those are just like pick and rolls but faster.
We don't run too many plays. Like it's usually just it's a lot of chemistry. There's this one set that we run. But we never call it. It just naturally happens. It'll be like I start off as a ball handler. I dribble I do like a DHO with like a wing. He gets a ball screen and then like a floppy is set for me and I just curl. And it's always an open three. It's literally always an open three.
Yeah.
Hey coach.
Yeah. What's happening?
Hello. Hey coach, big fan of yours since the Mo Williams videos.
Oh, wow. Thank you. Mo Williams. No Mo.
Yeah. Yep. 2010. I've been following you since then.
Wow. Well, thank you.
I'm from India, and just wanted to ask you, do you think Paul George plays better when he's the first guy?
Oh, wow.
Because when Kawhi is there, he doesn't play good, compared to Kawhi. Then when he was with Westbrook, he didn't play that good. But when he was in the Pacers, he used to play awesome. The way he's playing right now. So do you think he should have his own team?
Wow. Let me do this. I'm going to call up Paul George, and I want to see Paul George's stats alongside Kawhi this year. I'm just kind of curious. I got my NBA Wowie logged in here. So Paul George...
I don't think the regular season stats are going to be... Or they might be better because of that 7-game stretch where Kawhi was out. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, 7 games isn't a huge, but just to give you an idea, there's probably some, even the regular season included, there's some indications. So Paul George shot 46% from the field alongside Kawhi Leonard. On the flip side, Kawhi shot 54%. So Kawhi seemed to benefit quite a bit from playing alongside Paul George. But Paul George wasn't horribly efficient. Let me see his 3-point percentage. Actually, Paul George shot 41% from 3 alongside Kawhi. So that must mean wait a minute, how can that be? Oh, so he must have shot. So Paul George must shoot a lot more threes when he's than he does twos.
What about his free throw attempts?
Yeah. Okay. Oh, free throw attempts.
They definitely go up.
Let's see the free throws. Let me see if I can do that. So the free throw rate. Let me look here. Free throw rate. Okay. So when he's playing alongside him, Paul George's free throw rate is 0.24, which I believe is a division of the free throw attempts into field goal attempts, something like that. So that's with Kawhi Leonard. If we put Kawhi Leonard on the bench, so let's not forget, 0.24 is Paul George's free throw rate alongside Kawhi. Now, when Kawhi is off, that 0.24 becomes 0.26. So, and I think, oh no, never mind, 0.29. That's a significant increase.
That's almost 30%.
Yeah, that's a huge increase in his free throw rate. So obviously, yes, he's generating more of the good stuff when Kawhi is off. So all I can tell you is that he's been terrific, and whatever people want to say about him and his playoff P or whatever, like he's proven himself enough across this entire playoff run that like listen. If he had a whole season to get adjusted to not playing with Kawhi, then some of the clunkers they might have had wouldn't have been so bad. I think the reason why they've had a couple of those losses without Kawhi is because you can't prepare when you have a guy like that all of a sudden disappears. So you might be right.
For example, I was asking like if Paul George was on Toronto with Pascal Siakam and Lowry, do you think it would be better?
Interesting. You want to import the rest of the Raptors over to the and then send Kawhi back. Well, listen, because Lowry is interesting. I don't know how much Lowry's got. I think on a really good team, he probably should come off the bench and be the sixth man and play 22 minutes a game. But Siakam, here's the thing: people slept on Siakam this year because the Raptors weren't nearly as good. He was easy to point the finger at, but his season really ended up not being that bad. I remember looking at it the other day. Let me just call it up again.
Really bad 3-point luck, if I remember.
Did he revert?
Didn't he shoot like 30%?
Let's see here.
I don't know. I mean, call me a nerd, but I feel like that's the aberration.
Yeah, well, so he ended up scoring, 21 points a game. His field goal percentage overall it actually went up slightly, but yeah, he shot under 30% from three, but he took 2 threes less a game, which is really interesting. He didn't settle for as many threes, and his 2-point percentage went up. So assists went up as well. You know what? He had a decent year, but I think people were expecting like another huge rise. Doesn't always happen that way. And as a result, listen, Siakam probably would be a nice fit alongside of Paul George instead of Kawhi. And I'm sure that would work. I'm sure that the Clippers would benefit from him right now in that setup. Unfortunately, if Kawhi doesn't get hurt, like they're in the finals already, probably, right? The way this is going. And especially if Serge Ibaka was healthy, like, who was going to beat him with that team? Like, there's just no way. So this season sucks. It's all I can tell you, right? It sucks.
I don't know.
Coach, what do you think? Coach, what do you think? Mark Cuban is trying to get Lowry and DeRozan to Dallas with Luka.
I don't know. DeRozan doesn't move the needle for me. I'm sorry. I don't think he does. I'm not sure anybody believes that. The biggest mistake they made was getting rid of Seth Curry. I think they really could have used him. Really quickly, I got a super chat here. I got to take care of on YouTube. Thank you so much from Vuno Devu. I can't even say Vuno Eve Devu, whatever it is. Finally, I can catch you live. Thanks for everything from Italy. Opinions in the next draft class. So thank you so much from Italy. Although that's a euro. Okay. Thank you so much for the euros. Anyway, opinions in the next draft class. Let's get to that real quick because I want to take care of all the super chatters on the YouTube side. Let's see Cunningham. Cunningham is great. I love the kid from Gonzaga, the guard. What's his name? Somebody help me. Jalen Suggs. There's a lot of really good players. Any of the guards on Baylor, I'd take in a second too. They were all NBA skilled ready. That was great to see them allowed to play that way. So I think there's a lot of teams who are going to be really happy after they've done drafting.
Coach, how do you feel about Davion Mitchell? I'm not too sold on him. I don't think his ceiling is that high. I wouldn't.
Wait, which school is he at? Remind me.
He's the Baylor. He's
Baylor. Yeah, no. Well, I mean, listen, I didn't watch enough Baylor. I lament that. For some reason, I kept missing them during the playoffs, during the NCAA tournament. But all I can tell you is that I was really impressed. Defensively, I thought he was really, really good, and he had skills off the dribble. Like first of all, it was so strange to me to see college coaches allow that. Right, I'm so happy to see that they can force mismatches and go to work and like they could shoot threes and have a clear conscience about it. And so I don't see now. How tall is he? Who knows how tall he is?
He's like 6 foot. 6 foot 1.
Yeah.
6'1".
Okay.
Shoes, I think.
Yeah. So but again, we've seen guys like that now have, look at Trey Young, for instance, and Mitchell is more, is bigger than him, right? Like physically.
What do you think about his 3-point shooting though? Do you think, because he shot 20-something% his first 2 seasons, and then he just shot up to 45. Like,
what is
Yeah.
his realistic percentage in the league?
All I know is if you can do it for a full season in college like that and keep it that high, then that the numbers, at the very least, analytically will tell you that he should be able to sustain that. I'm pretty sure. I think that when we've seen that kind of jump at the college level, you can sustain that. But either way, nothing about the form jumped out at me too much as far as what he was doing that would indicate he wouldn't be able to be competent at that at 35. So I would think he could do it.
And what's his age and stuff like that? Like,
oh, is he old?
Him being an older player, yeah.
So yeah, just full disclosure, I haven't gone through all these guys yet. I usually do. We're gonna do a live show. I bring in Adam Stanko, who's like one of the best that works at the Pac-12 network and knows everything about everybody. So he comes in and helps me. I do some deep dives on some videos. So I'm going to catch up at some point when we get closer to the end of the finals. But that it's at the end of the career that you kind of deal with that. In my mind, a guy who plays 3-4 years or is older coming in is just that much more ready to contribute right away. So, it's like a guy like Wiseman who hadn't played like one game his college career. Like, I've seen enough already. There's evidence there that shows he could be an all-star, but you're going to have to wait 2 or 3 more years. But guys like Mitchell can come in and they can contribute right away. And a lot of times what happens is it's the end of the first round where those guys get drafted simply because they've been around longer. Well, who gets those players? The good teams who are drafting at the end of the first round, and they come in right away and help them. So it's almost like it doesn't help. It makes the NBA, tilted toward these good teams longer and longer.
There's a other Big 12 guard that I think is going to be like really good. He's a 2-year player. His name's Miles McBride. Like I just think like he's like super portable. Like he hit 41.4% from 3 last year, and like I think that's in line with
yeah, he has a long wingspan too. It's like 6'8" wingspan, 6'1". I watch a lot of his games. I don't know why they were always on TV.
Yeah, West Virginia. Because West Virginia was really good. He was a big reason for that.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
He's also a big disruptor. Like he averaged like 2 steals a game, and like he's a really good nail defender and pretty good on ball. Like, he kind of he didn't lock up Cade, but there were possessions where he kind of gave Cade like serious problems.
Well, here's what I like about Cade, okay, and what the potential for him to be drafted number 1. I can't understand why NBA teams to this day are still trying to draft these 7-footers that don't shoot threes. Okay, we saw with Ayton. We see it like the top of the list. Now, we're a little bit, it's permeating now a little bit more, but a guy like Cade Cunningham should be the guy that you're drafting the first 5, 6. The guy who's 6'8", 6'9", 6'10", can shoot and can defend, the 3-and-D guy like that. That is the number 1 priority for every team. And yet, if you look at the draft recently, or, forever, they still make these picks. Now, I love Ayton, and his development's been great, but there's all those guys that are littered like that who don't shoot necessarily from the outside, and they keep picking them in this old school way, and it's so strange to me. Do you know what I mean? It's like I hope he gets picked first, only because that'll start the process now of everybody in the first 7 picks picking that kind of player.
I don't think there's a universe where he doesn't get picked. Like,
he's getting picked first.
Like they can try to tell us, oh, we're exploring all our options. That's just
like,
he's like, imagine Sean Livingston without like the knee injuries, but he can shoot.
Yeah,
it's a little less athletic, but like that's K, and like a lot of that might be a non-descriptive stuff, but that's really fucking good. Like,
yeah, no, it's great to see.
Wait, so it seems like you're not big on Mobley being projected as high as he is.
Oh, you mean from USC, right? He doesn't shoot, right?
Well, like he shot like 30%. They see like he has good touch, so he can space the floor.
Yeah,
he's gonna project.
They project that you can develop a jump shot with.
I don't think he's ever gonna be someone that hits them at a high rate, but he can.
But like he can get into like the respectable range, where,
right?
Like guard him out there.
By the way, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say that like with like a big, it's more about like the threat of hitting, or like just like how close you're forcing teams to play up on you, and like I think that like he's a good enough shooter, and like he has good enough mechanics to where with a little bit of NBA development, like he'll get to a point where maybe he never gets to a point where he shoots like 37% from three, but he's going to get to a point where teams still have to play up on him.
Right.
And,
Well, that's also an indictment on the college coaches. Too many of these guys are cavemen and who don't think that they can spend time developing players individually because they need to win games. When in fact, the more you develop them, individually, the more games you're going to win. And so, some of these guys come out Okongwu was a good example. Wait, where did he go to college?
He went to USC also.
Oh, right. So, there's a guy who should have developed into a much better ball handler and shooter. And I'm sure they just said, get your ass down on the block and you're going to play big man the whole time and whatever. And that's in their mind, it's like, this is how it's going to help us win. So we need him to do this. But in my mind, it's like, no, give him those other skills that'll help him in the NBA as well. And you will benefit from those. But it's so strange to me that they don't think they can. I still meet D1 coaches who think that they can't really improve anyone's jump shot after they get to the NBA, to the college. It's so strange to me. How many times when you go to these coaching clinics and you don't see, there aren't no D1 head coaches actually go and listen to anybody talk. They'll talk themselves, but the development on that end is so myopic. It's very rare these days, certainly in the majors, to see cutting edge stuff going on in these courts. Now, granted, does Roy Williams need to do anything else? He wins a ton of games. They go to the tournament every year. I'm sure he thinks he's got the game cold. He understands it. Doesn't need to learn anything more.
Past few years, that hasn't been going well for Roy. So I think your point has been made in that aspect.
Izzo is the same way. Self, all these guys I think are slowly starting to realize, you know what, doing a choppy step closeout with the high hand and the butt down maybe doesn't work so well against these guys that are splitting and going on the catch. If they're going to rip through and triple threat, great. We could do whatever we want on defense because they're letting us catch up. But if you're going to do all that old school stuff and let them drive middle and you're going to help one pass away and give up open threes, it's Porter Moser is at Oklahoma now because he was able to beat these good teams with very little talent at Loyola by playing a much more modern style. And it continues to happen. So, hopefully we get away. I got in trouble with the whole Izzo criticism, but he continues to prove me correct. And what he did last year in the tournament was...
I remember that.
Yeah.
I was on your side, Bill.
Thanks. Well, did you see what happened this year?
No. What happened this year?
They were up 11 in the play-in game. They couldn't make it outright, so they had a play-in game for the tournament. They're up 11 in a very low-scoring game. So 11-point game, and that was like a 20-point lead, right? But they give up a three-pointer on a pick and pop. Shit happens. They give up a three-pointer and pick and pop. Izzo comes tearing down as the guy is going into the locker room down the tunnel. He comes running after him and gets in his face and starts screaming, and the guy gets in his face. And you know that they went back in the locker room and probably screamed at each other again instead of saying, okay, here are the 5 adjustments we need to make and we'll win this game going away. So guess what happens? They open the second half completely flat, couldn't even make a pass into the post without throwing it away, and they lose that game. All because Izzo has some ego where he's got to make some sort of point in a moment where his team was up. They needed an uplifting moment, and he just dragged them down, and they broke. It was frustrating. And by the way, that was also me having to take a lot of crap because Aaron Henry, who was the original source of one of my criticism of Izzo a few years ago, he was actually playing well out of the blue in the tournament, and everyone's like, see, look at how Izzo screaming at him and almost punching him in the face in a timeout. Look how that helped him 3 years later. And I'm just like, all right, well, look what he just did to the whole team.
Aaron Henry's that good, but
he's not, but he's a good kid. But Aaron Henry was trained to believe that he needs that kind of coaching. That's like the ultimate in abusive behavior. That's why I get so frustrated because we now know. I don't want to get on my high horse, but we know how the chemicals in the brain work in the face of anger and disgust. And since we know that, and we know that your job should be as a coach to get your team to play as well as they possibly can, then you would not be detonating on them in a game in the middle of the whole thing like that and threatening to, hit them or whatever Izzo was going to do. If that's your goal. But honestly, Izzo doesn't have a goal. He doesn't have a goal that guides him. He's just id. He is rage. He is Italian, whatever he likes to sort of say he is. And it's like it just holds your team back. And then when you see in that game after the Aaron Henry thing a few years ago, he heard the criticism. He was extremely sarcastic in his response to it and not want to self-reflect at all. But in the games after that, he calmed down, and guess what happened? They go on a run all the way to the Final Four, but then in the moment they play, I think it was Virginia, who was a better team, and it was, back and forth. They were down 10, 12 minutes ago in the second half. Here was the moment Izzo could lift them and give them the edge they needed to somehow go on a run and get hot and maybe win this game. And what do you see him on the sideline? He's like sighing. He's putting his hands on his head. He's looking down and like just depressed, his shoulders. He was doing all the worst body language, like it's your fault. I can't help you. You can't do it. And sure enough, they lost. So it's like he'll never accept that. He'll never even understand that. And I hope going forward that more coaches will.
Coach, I had a question.
Yeah.
Have you ever been offered a job from an NBA team?
Not really formally. And again, part of it is like I'm too busy in my family, although moving forward, I might not be so much. So, I have contacts and people that I can discuss stuff with, which at least indicates to me that they believe that I know what I'm talking about and that I'm beneficial. And then there are a couple NBA guys I even do some consulting with about their shooting. So, tangentially around there, I'm a little bit around that. And you have to imagine if you ever work for a team in that kind of setting, you're not home for over half of the year. And, when I was a basketball manager at Wisconsin and then coming out of college, I could have gone on that track and been a complete nomad and never stayed anywhere for more than like 2 or 3 years at a time. I know people who did a lot of that. I guess I just never wanted to do that. I don't like being so, traveling that much and being so upended. But that said, obviously if I got an offer now, I don't think I could turn it down. Certainly but certain teams. And so, yeah.
Because I saw a video of you coaching a basketball game with Bob Bulgaris. He got a job with Dallas.
He did. And Dallas is really interesting right now.
And look at him.
Yeah. I mean, listen, Bob and I, we're friendly, and that's another one of those things where who knows? But I think to get a kind of job like that, you have to be very proactive and have to be on top of it and say I want a job versus me sort of waiting for someone to call. And as my family life has been moving on, my kids are getting older, I probably could be more in a situation where I could then be that proactive. And so as of now, though, I've been perfectly happy building this business. And by the way, and just learning, you don't learn as much when you're stuck on one team, right? You're just too busy. I love the fact that I'm trying to invent a new defense right now, and I can call 20 of the best basketball minds in the world and have an hour-long discussion on the phone with them about what they think about it, and then, get on the court and refine it. When can you do that if you're working for a team, right?
Yep, agree.
Coach?
Yeah.
Who do you think is the best NBA coach right now?
Ooh, who's the best NBA coach? Well, you know what? I got to put Ty Lue gets a little bit of a shout out here because he's convinced me a lot more in the last, this playoff run of his ability to adjust and have this team play the way he needs them to win these games. Again, when you lose Kawhi Leonard, it's natural that you're going to be down in some of these series and deal with that. So, but they're pretty confident they're going to be able to make it and get to Game 7 and then win that. We'll see. So he's got to be up there, but who are the usual suspects? We got, like Nick Nurse is still up there. They had some trouble this year, but he's really good, and I like the fact that he's out of the box. Who else?
Greg Popovich. Nate McMillan has done a good job.
Nate McMillan, yeah. He's one of those guys, the former player, that era of former players that didn't always adjust well. Like, Dwayne Casey's, those guys sometimes are kind of stuck in a real old school thing that I kind of look down on. Spoelstra, I think, is really good. Yeah, for sure. Really, really good. And then, communication-wise. Brad Stevens was the guy, but, I kept saying this for years. At some point, he needed to get to the finals to, to earn completely that reputation. And I don't think we're going to ever – he's not – I mean, maybe he'll go back to coaching one day, but usually I would be surprised. I feel like he went to the front office. It might just be what he does. Who else are we talking about? What other coaches are there?
Mike Malone.
Mike Malone's solid. He's very solid.
I think
yeah.
Memphis coach is good.
Yeah. Now, by the way, the Popovich tree isn't always great, as the Phil Jackson tree hadn't been great. Steve Kerr, deserves a mention in there too. He's a forward-thinking guy. They dealt with crazy stuff and injuries, but I think next year will be a chance for him to reestablish himself in that discussion.
The worst?
Who? Is Luke Walton the well? That's so weird because remember they were all saying he was better, coach than Kerr, and look what he did. I don't know if I'll put it this way. I was a teacher in high school also when I was coaching, and I think I was the best math teacher in the world. My first and second period, when I had 12 kids in the class, they were still a little sleepy from being early and getting up. I was the best math teacher ever. By the time I got to fourth period, and I had all ninth grade kids doing Algebra 1, which means they're already a year behind, and most of them have ADHD, and it's before lunch, and the blood sugar has been whatever. I was the worst teacher ever in the history of teaching. So Luke Walton in Sacramento could very well be, not a good coach because he's in Sacramento. Now, that team isn't so bad, and they actually didn't perform that poorly, but it's a bit tumultuous there, and I don't know how many coaches could have really gotten control of that. The Popovich thing is a little bit interesting because we've heard this with the Phil Jackson thing where listen, as a triangle offense coach, Phil Jackson's he's the god, and I love the way he approached the game and how out of the box he was. But he always got the criticism that, it was Michael Jordan and it was Scottie Pippen and then Shaq and Kobe. It's easy to be a good coach with those guys. Popovich could very well also have gotten a lot of that reputation from having Tim Duncan and then Manu and then, Tony. So it's possible.
Coach, you forgot your favorite coach, Carlisle.
Who?
Rick Carlisle. You forgot your favorite coach.
I know. Is he my favorite? Have you all seen the interview I did with him? I mean, I'm not going to hide it. It's on YouTube. But by the way, the only time I ever interviewed him, he won a championship. Right? So maybe he should come back on the show. Carlisle is interesting, and certainly he. I'll just say it this way. I think I completely understand why he left Dallas, and it sounds like he completely left it on his own volition. He likes to control every facet of the game, and I think that's difficult to do in this day and age. When he stopped calling every single play from the sideline from the offense, they had an all-time high offensive rating. They broke the record with Luka. So that shows his ability to evolve a little bit, which is exciting. We'll see what he can do. He's going to have a good Indiana team. Here's the thing. Bjorkgren, if he hadn't gotten fired, if this team stays healthy for a year, they're going to be really, really, really good. And they're going to all say, oh, look what Carlisle did. I can guarantee you that Bjorkgren probably would have gotten the same results. I mean, the only problem is you hear all that weird talk coming out about him and his personality and whatever, and that's not good. Clearly he wasn't liked enough to keep some of those things quiet, or people make stuff up about him or whatever. Your goal I think has to be that you want to be well liked enough. Where Jim Beeline, for instance, he got caught saying a racist thing in a film room. Well, maybe if he had earned enough, and liked better, it would have stayed in-house more, right? But if you're not liked, and you're not trying to be best friends with everybody as a coach, but you need to have enough of that rapport where, you've earned a little bit of a break if you screw up, right? If you say something the wrong way or you say something bad, it's hard to survive that.
Do you believe the Domantas Sabonis story about Bjorkgren?
Go. I don't know what the story is.
So I guess the story is that Bjorkgren was treating the staff around the Pacers facilities not great, like the janitors and the guys like that. And because Domantas Sabonis has such a great rapport with the staff there, on behalf of the staff, he apparently approached Bjorkgren and basically told him hey, you're treating, for lack of a better term, you're treating the guys around here like shit. You shouldn't do that. You need to treat these people like human beings, regardless of their jobs. They're human beings. And I guess Bjorkgren responded by making Domantas Sabonis travel the greatest length on defense in the month of April. I think it was something he made, in a month, he made Domantas Sabonis travel something it was some crazy amount of miles on defense. It was wild. And so I don't know if you had even heard that story or what, but
no, I had not heard that story. I don't know how Bjorkgren could have made him run more on defense as a punishment. I guess if they change a certain coverage and you're going to do this instead of drop, and then that's more running, But it's interesting. I don't know. It doesn't sound. Now, what that part, I don't know if I want to put any credence to as far as the more running on defense. But certainly, I had not really heard that Bjorkgren would be treating the staff poorly. it's weird to even picture that, having been around and covered a lot of teams and being around. It's just like, when are you going to see a coach like go out of his way to be a jerk to like the guys that work at the stadium or whatever? Like that's just weird to me. But I don't know. So who knows what that's about? And by the way, if it was true that Sabonis like stood up for them, that is really great. And so I'm glad to hear that out of him. So I don't know.
Coach, where do you think Damian Lillard should go to win a championship?
Ooh, the Damian Lillard question. Well, I mean, obviously, if he wants to win a championship, he should just go to a team that's already stacked, right? Like, that'll kind of get you pretty close to being a guarantee. Well, he can't go to the Nets because, they already got Kyrie, although that'd be hilarious if they somehow traded Kyrie for Dame. That wouldn't...
I don't think they trade Kyrie because he's friends with Durant.
Yeah, it wouldn't work. Okay, so anyway, so where does he go? Dame's got to go to L.A., right, and play alongside LeBron and AD. And we probably heard that already from that. And he's got all the agents and whatever probably trying to make that happen. Obviously, like, you know how there was a lot of civil unrest in Portland last summer over the Black Lives Matter protests? Well, if you thought that was violent, like, I can't imagine what would happen in Portland if they traded Damian Lillard. I think it would be worse. So I can't believe that they would do it. Like, it would just so upset the fan base. If they did it, they would have to get so much back, I would think. Or they would certainly want a lot back, and I don't know who has the ability. Like, the Lakers don't have assets. They have Kuzma, right? They have Caruso. They don't have enough. They don't...
Dennis Schroeder has to be a part of that.
All right, Schroeder. Yeah, that's right. Schroeder. Yeah, so that him... but I don't know. I mean, I guess that's pennies in the dollar back for Dame in theory. But I think the Lakers would probably have to be the number one spot if it's talking about winning a title. Maybe is it like Dallas? No, he can't play. Well, could he? No.
Coach, can he go to the Bucks for Holiday or Middleton?
But if you get rid of Middleton, all right, you want to try and ride. But by the way, that's what they need. They need a Dame. They need a Dame to be the primary scorer and have Giannis be the second guy. And if that's the case, can you get by without Middleton? Man, what else? They're going to have to replace him with somebody else. Like, I don't know.
They needed Bogdanovich.
Is Dame okay with Milwaukee?
Why wouldn't he be?
I don't know.
I mean, he's playing in Portland, small market.
I think Dame is cool with small markets. I think he's okay.
If like CP3 leaves next year, he can just join the Suns with Booker.
That's interesting. Because they're going to be really good too. They are good. Never mind. Yeah.
Only West team I can see him really going to. I think if he really wants to win a chip, he probably is going to have to go out east somewhere. We just have to figure out what team.
Yeah, and again, I mean, that's the other question is, are the Nets going to be injury prone the rest of this time? Because if they're not, then I don't see how anybody beats them, but for a while. But yeah, other than that, the East, I mean, I like actually the Dame into Milwaukee, but again, they'd have to keep Middleton somehow, and I don't think that's possible. Now, okay, to get rid of Middleton, then they have to get someone like Robert Covington. They need that kind of guy then, right? They need somebody who can shoot some threes and play some serious defense. And that's what every team wants that. So I don't know how you replace Middleton. I don't think people realize how important Middleton is to this team, honestly.
No, he
What about Dame to Philly?
Dame to Philly. Okay, there you go for Simmons and whatever.
My only concern is like Simmons' value is tanked so hard.
Like, yeah.
I don't like just yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Coach.
Well, I was on that Simmons train too from the very beginning. I was really high on him, but why? Because at 19, what he was doing was amazing. Thinking, okay, there's a progression that's going to occur. Well, guess what? He really hasn't progressed. So here we are at 24, 25. What is he now?
25.
Yeah, whatever he is, 24-5. Here we are, and he still has the same issues. And the idea, by the way, listen, no disrespect to Doc, but like the idea that he's going to solve all of the shooting issues by working on the free throws and like that's going to then inform the jump shot is like, there's nothing, there really isn't much similar between a jump shot and a free throw. Like practically, I know that there is some statistical connection between a good free throw shooter and a good like 3-point shooter, but when we're talking about the practical nature of being able to do those two things, they're closed loops. One is wide open, 10 seconds, you're not jumping. The other is, game speed, guys flying at you, different spots on the floor, different alignments, different passing off the dribble. It's apples and oranges. It's not even fruit. It's apples and and steak. I don't know.
Good. What do you think about to the Celtics? Jaylen Brown and Smart for Lillard and Covington. No.
Jaylen Brown and Smart for Lillard and Covington. I would do it. Well, here's the thing. I think that Marcus Smart is the guy that holds the Celtics back from like the deep playoff runs. And so they would be wise to get rid of him. Now getting rid of Kemba was really, really interesting because it clearly told us that they didn't really have faith in him at some point in that season. And then I don't know how early that became the thing. Now, the other problem with Kemba, with his knees, I would suspect that he's going to break down. He's not going to be able to stay healthy going forward. His knee valgus was so extreme for all those years. We were kind of like scratching our head and wondering if that was going to be a thing. And then boom, and here it is. And it's been a thing for 2 years now. So, but I always felt like there was Marcus Smart is the guy who he'll make plays, he'll hit some threes, he'll do some stuff, but the erratic decision making is not something you want to rely on from a major player deep in the playoffs. So if here's the thing, I like Jaylen Brown. I think maybe a slight bit better than Tatum. So but if you're going to trade anybody, it's going to have to be Brown, I guess. But okay, so Brown and here's the thing. I think Brown plays within himself more than Tatum. And as a result, he's just steadier. But because he's an elite athlete, his within himself is still like he can do some amazing stuff. Whereas, I think
Jaylen Brown would just be a better fit next to Damian Lillard because you have if you have Damian Lillard and
Tatum
like on offense, to me I don't see that as cohesive.
Yeah.
Because if Damian Lillard is off ball, that to me is not necessarily what I want as a coach. I don't really like that unless it's like gravity and they're trying to deny the ball and Tatum can like try to drive to the rim and do some ISO. I don't really want Damian Lillard off ball because he's not. I don't see him as like the greatest shooter off ball. Not that he's bad, but I just don't like that.
Yeah. Well, I hear you. Now, here's the thing. On the Portland side, though, okay, so obviously getting Brown would be great for them. They'd want that. Having Smart there isn't, then they're stuck with the same issues. They had Evan Turner that came in. And when he came in, by the way, I thought Portland was on their way to something really special when they had Alan Crabb and CJ and Dame. And you have to fill in who the other guys were at the time. I'm blanking. But they ended up doing a weird trade, and that brought Evan Turner in. And I really feel like that was the beginning of the downfall of them, not being able to get to the absolute next level. And I feel like Marcus Smart is sort of.
They signed Evan Turner.
They signed him? There wasn't a trade?
Yeah.
It wasn't like mid-season?
Paid him like $17 million a year in 2016.
All right.
It was when the TV everybody thought the TV deal was gonna spike the cap and it just didn't. So then Evan Turner was on like a bad contract basically.
Oh yeah.
But I do agree with your evaluation overall.
Okay, yeah. There was something that team was fun. They were onto something.
Yeah, in the Western Conference Finals, they had a big lead every single game against the Warriors, and they blew it every time.
Yeah, that was a problem. That was actually even recently, right? That was 2018?
Yep, that was the best chance.
Yeah, that was the last chance. Yeah, that was the KD, right. That was when the center was hitting all those threes. Yes, the guy who's now probably might be out of the league for saying something stupid on a stream. What's his name? Miles Leonard, thank you. Anyhow, so, well, listen, we're getting to the end here because I got to finish this damn video. It's getting late in the day here. It's, already 2:40 my time. But awesome stuff, guys. Anybody want to make a quick point before we wrap up?
Coach, please tell me your pick for who's going to win the championship.
Oh, who's going to win the championship? The Suns. The healthiest team, the Suns.
Yep.
I gotta disagree. I think it's the Clippers. I think that in terms of just purely coaching, I think that Ty Lue has the respect of his players. I think he has a great coaching staff behind him, and he's just an adjustment master. Not necessarily saying that he is great with all of his adjustments, but he just knows when to make adjustments. He just kind of just throws it out there.
Yeah, well, and by the way, the adjustments I like mostly for him are the personnel. He's really adept at changing the lineups. But then again, the zone they were playing in the last game really, really was effective. So yes, I just talked to somebody with the Clippers, and they're like, "Yep, we're going to get Game 7. We're going to win it." So they certainly think that they're going to make it. It's tough. You got to win, all these games in a row, 2 games in a row, while the Suns only need to win 1. So I'm just going to kind of default to that. But, you know, I'm not going to say you're crazy for picking the Clippers. Now, on the flip side, I guess either of those teams are going to beat, you know, either the Hawks or the Bucks. Now, we have obviously the Giannis question is huge. But then again, you know, if we have another Cam Reddish, if the Cam Reddish awakening continues, then geez, the Hawks are tough, man.
Coach, do you think when Coach Lou used to coach LeBron that he was a bad coach that time? People used to say. Now everyone is saying he's a great coach.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
I think that
bad coach because of his defense, or quote unquote, but like
he never was a bad coach. He never was a bad coach.
Right. Well, here's the thing. Right.
He even made a video on it. Like,
yeah, I don't.
His coaching, like his defense, at least from his defense wasn't really great, and they made a point saying
still
like
not though.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing.
He wasn't a bad coach, but like
I just think that yeah.
Was like his only issue, and with the Clippers, because he has a better staff around him that are more predicated towards defense, so he doesn't have to worry about it. It's just a little bit different, and now he's a way better coach.
Well, here's the thing. I think he's got more control. I think when you coach a LeBron team, there's a very limited amount of control you can have as a coach. That he likes to be able to have, you know. By the way, I mean, certainly his playing time, he decides what that is. I suspect he probably, you know, would get this guy. Like, he would do some substitution stuff if he didn't want guys in. I think they'll calling offensive plays is probably on LeBron as well. You know, I can't wait to hear the tell-all book from what's his face from Vogel right now. He might have some insights because you know, I'm sure it's very difficult to coach LeBron. That said, you know, the defensive work that they did on the Lakers this year was really impressive. So Vogel deserves as much credit as anybody for having to be able to develop that in the face of a guy on the team who's going to be a second coach. As a result, what we're seeing with Tyronn Lue now is, you know, even more control, right? It feels like, and the more like these players are not the same, and so he's gotten more of a traditional role as the coach, and we're seeing it. Like, yeah, it's been great, and you know, the Vogel. I think the Lakers are bringing in another. Oh, they're bringing in from Memphis. Take that for data. What's his name? Fizdale, thank you. They just hired Fizdale. You know, as a head coach in the NBA, you have to be very weary and leery about bringing in assistants who have already been head coaches, because it makes it easier for the management to fire you. Now, having Jason Kidd next to him, and then they had Lionel Hollins too. I think they had a whole bunch of this murderer's row of former coaches next to him. You know, like that would make me nervous. And I think what we end up finding out is that a lot of times head coaches don't have the final say on who they have to hire as assistants sometimes. So I would be, you know, I think Vogel was probably a sigh of relief that Kidd went somewhere else. Wait, he did, right? Where did Kidd go? Dallas. My gosh, he went to Dallas. So that was like, oh, phew. But like, then they're going to bring in Fizdale, right? Who's already been a coach a couple times. Players love him. If things kind of get a little rocky, which they're guaranteed to on a team like that, you know, the management could be like, well, you know, we got a guy right next to him, and the players love him. We can just bring him in, right? Like, that would be what I'd be worried about from all the time as a head coach at any level, by the way, high school through college and whatever. So, and that's too bad, because Vogel deserves, you know, to coach until he decides not to anymore. But speaking of not to anymore, I gotta wrap it up, guys. It's time to get going. I gotta finish this video. But thank you so much for being part of the show. Thank you all on YouTube for being part of that. Don't forget, follow me over there on Green Room if you're on YouTube, and we'll be able to chop it up. I'm gonna solve this issue where we can have the perfect audio feed into the speakers and yada yada. So I'm gonna solve that. But don't forget, sports fans, at B-Ball Breakdown, we're not a channel, we're a conversation. You in? Are you in, guys?
Great stuff, Coach.
Yeah, we are.
Coach, I actually got a quick.
All right, and now I got to sign off on YouTube. Whoa, you caught me. I forgot about that. I got two things at once. All right, everybody. Awesome stuff. I'll see you in a few minutes with a new video, and or in an hour or so, and then we'll do a live show soon.